Why don't you guys go talk to my friend? She's single too.
Your friend? No way. She's not my type at all.
Please, beautiful girl, we're here because of you, not your ugly friend.
What if I told you that the person standing right beside you, calling herself your best friend, was the very reason your life kept falling apart? What if the one who held your hand at church every Sunday, who cried with you when things got hard, who said, "We are sisters, you and I," was actually the one pushing you deeper into the shadows every single chance she got? This is not a love story. Not at first. This is the story of Angela, the girl everyone forgot to see. It started the way most painful things start, quietly, disguised as something normal. Angela and Bianca had been friends since primary school. They grew up in the same neighborhood in Lagos, attended the same church in Surulere, wore matching Sunday dresses their mothers sewed from the same Ankara fabric. From the outside, they looked like sisters, the kind of friendship people pointed at and said, "See those two, always together." But together did not mean equal. And Angela would spend the next 26 years of her life learning that bitter lesson. Bianca was beautiful in the way that stops a room. Tall, smooth, dark skin that caught light like polished wood. 4 lips that curled into a smile men crossed the street for. When she walked into a space, something shifted. Conversations paused, heads turned, phones came out. She was the kind of woman who made ordinary rooms feel like occasions. Angela was different. Not ugly, no. That word is too simple, too lazy for what people did to her. Angela was the kind of girl people looked past. Average height, full figure, dark and quiet, with big watchful eyes that noticed everything, even when everyone assumed she noticed nothing. She was the kind of woman who had to work 3 times as hard to be seen in any room Bianca walked into. And Bianca knew it. That was the part Angela refused to admit for years, that Bianca knew. And not only did she know, she arranged things that way. Little arrangements, invisible ones, the kind that leave no fingerprints. At church, Bianca would wear her brightest outfits on the days she knew the visiting pastor was coming. She would position herself in the center of every photo and stare Angela gently to the edge. "Stand there, Angie. The light is better." The light was never better, but Angela smiled and moved to the edge every single time. At family gatherings, when aunties asked Bianca about her life, she answered in full color, her new job, her new bag, her suitors. When they turned to Angela, Bianca would jump in first. "Angela is still finding herself, how she is," said with a smile, said with love in her voice, said in a way that closed every door before Angela could even reach the handle. The boys were the worst part. Every boy Angela liked in university. And there were not many because Angela protected her heart like it was something fragile. Somehow ended up in Bianca's orbit. Not because Bianca wanted them, not even because she pursued them, simply because she could. Bianca collected attention the way some people collect receipts, casually, unconsciously, or so it appeared. Angela's mother saw it once, just once. She pulled Angela aside after a family naming ceremony where 3 different men had asked Bianca for her number while Angela sat at the table alone eating jollof rice. "That girl," her mother said, voice low, eyes sharp. "She is not your friend, Angela. She is your mirror, but cracked. Everything you should have, she holds up to herself first." Angela laughed it off. She was 22. She did not want to believe it. It was easier to believe the problem was her looks, her weight, her quietness, her inability to shine. So she kept walking into rooms and sitting at the edges. She kept smiling in photos she had been pushed out of. She kept laughing at jokes made at her expense, because at least the laughter meant she was there. At least it meant someone noticed her enough to mock her. That is what loneliness does to a person. It makes them grateful for the wrong things. And then, on a cold Tuesday morning in March, Angela's grandmother died. And everything, every single thing began to change. Mama Ngozi was not a woman people forgot easily. She was 78 years old when she died, small in body but enormous in presence, with hands that smelled permanently of shea butter and a voice that could quiet a whole compound with one word. She had built her skincare business, Ngozi Naturals, from a single pot of cream she mixed in her kitchen in 1989, selling it door to door in Apapa with a baby tied to her back. By the time Angela was born, Ngozi Naturals had grown into something real, a proper factory in Agbara, retail partnerships with 3 major pharmacies in Lagos, a loyal customer base that stretched across Nigeria and into Ghana and Cameroon. Mama Ngozi had done it without a husband's money, without a degree, without a single person who believed she could. She had done it on stubbornness and early mornings and prayers that shook the windows. Angela had always been closest to her grandmother. Every school holiday, while other children went to Ibadan or Port Harcourt to visit relatives, Angela took a danfo to Mama Ngozi's house in Isale Eko and sat in that kitchen watching her work, learning recipes, learning silence, learning what it meant to build something with your own 2 hands. People will always look at what shines on the outside, Mama Ngozi told her once, while stirring a pot of black soap. But the woman who knows what is inside, that woman can never be beaten. Angela had written it in her journal. She was 14. She did not fully understand it then. She understood it now. The reading of the will took place in a lawyer's office in Victoria Island on a Thursday. Angela wore her best black dress, the one she had bought 2 sizes too small because the shop was closing and it was on discount. She sat in a leather chair across from her mother, 2 aunties, and Mama Ngozi's eldest son, Uncle Emeka, who had already begun mentioning expansion plans as if the old woman's body was not yet cold. When the lawyer opened the envelope and began reading, the room was still. To my children, I leave the properties in Surulere and Festac to be shared equally among them. Uncle Emeka nodded, expected, reasonable. To my granddaughter, Angela Okafor, I leave full ownership and operational control of Ngozi Naturals, its brand, its assets, its factory, its accounts, and its future. The room did not just go quiet, it collapsed. Uncle Emeka's chair scraped back. This is a mistake. He said it like a fact, not a question, like the lawyer had made an arithmetic error. Emeka Jr. has been managing that company for 3 years. Angela knows nothing about business. Angela sat very still. She had learned stillness from years of practice, from sitting at edges of photos, from swallowing words at gatherings, from absorbing blows dressed as jokes. She sat still and she breathed. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. There is no mistake, sir. Mrs. Ngozi Okafor signed this document herself in this office 8 months before her passing. It is legal and binding. Angela's mother reached across and squeezed her hand so hard it hurt. The aunties whispered. Uncle Emeka called his son. Someone said Angela was too young, too inexperienced, too soft. Someone else said the old woman had clearly lost her mind near the end. The voices rose and tangled and crowded the small office. Angela stood up. She did not raise her voice. She did not argue. She picked up her copy of the will, folded it carefully, put it into her bag, and said, quietly, clearly, with all 26 years of sitting at the edges of rooms packed tightly behind her words, I will be at the factory Monday morning. Anyone who wants to discuss operations can meet me there. She walked out. In the lift, alone, going down 15 floors, Angela leaned against the cold metal wall and pressed her hand flat against her chest. Her heart was going like a market on Saturday. She was terrified. She was shaking. But underneath the fear, beneath the shaking, something else was stirring, something she had not felt in a long time, something that felt almost like recognition, like she was finally standing in the right room, in the center this time, not the edge. She pulled out her phone and sent one message to Bianca. You won't believe what just happened. Bianca responded in 4 seconds. Tell me everything, babe. Angela almost did. Then she stopped herself, put the phone back into her bag, pressed the lobby button. Some things, she decided, were better kept close until you knew what they were. The first 6 months were brutal. If anyone had told Angela that inheriting a company would feel like being pushed off a cliff and told to grow wings before you hit the ground, she would have believed them completely. The factory manager, Mr. Tunde, was 60 years old and had worked for Mama Ngozi for 22 years. He was polite in the way experienced men are polite to young women, surface level, patient, and deeply unconvinced. He answered every question Angela asked with the kind of tone reserved for explaining things to children. That's not how we do it here. That sentence became the sound of her first 3 months. Emeka Jr., her cousin who had been running the company before the will was read, stopped showing up entirely. He took 3 senior staff members with him when he left. He also, Angela later discovered, attempted to take a list of their top wholesale clients, a move she caught only because Mama Ngozi's personal secretary, a small, fierce woman named Mrs. Bello, had been loyally documenting everything since the funeral. "Your grandmother told me to watch," Mrs. Bello said, simply, sliding a folder across the desk. "So I watched." Angela read every page of that folder. Then she read it again. Then she stayed in the factory until midnight for 11 nights in a row, learning every part of that business the way you learn a language you should have grown up speaking. She made mistakes. Of course she did. She approved a packaging deal that cost them more than it saved. She misread a supplier contract and had to renegotiate from a position of weakness. She hired a marketing consultant who turned out to know nothing useful. Each mistake cost money, cost time, cost confidence. But here is what nobody tells you about a woman who has spent her whole life being underestimated. She has developed a very high tolerance for starting over. Angela had been restarting her confidence since she was 12 years old. She knew how to fall and get back up without making a performance of it. She knew how to absorb a blow and keep moving. She knew how to sit in the discomfort of not knowing and stay there until she understood. By month 4, she had restructured the supply chain. By month 5, she had hired a young chemist fresh out of University of Benin who had ideas about natural formulations that made Angela's eyes go wide with possibility. By month 6, she launched a new product line, skincare products designed specifically for deeper skin tones, African women who had spent decades buying European creams that did not understand their skin. She named the new line Mama's Recipe. The response was not immediate, it never is with things that are real, but it was steady. A beauty blogger in Abuja tried the face oil and posted a video that reached 400,000 people. A woman in Accra tagged Ngozi Naturals in a before and after that went everywhere. A lifestyle magazine in Lagos called and asked if Angela would sit for an interview. She wore a dress she had chosen herself, deep burgundy, tailored to her actual body. Not her body 2 sizes smaller, not her body as she wished it was, her body as it existed, full and real and present. The photographer told her to relax her face. She told him her face was already relaxed. When the magazine cover came out, Angela stood in a pharmacy in Ikeja and looked at herself on the shelf next to the lip balms. She looked at her own face, dark and direct and unapologetic, above the headline, the granddaughter who inherited a legacy and made it her own. She stood there for a full minute, not posing, not performing, just looking. She bought 3 copies, sent 1 to her mother, kept 2 for herself. That same week, she got a call from Bianca. "I saw the magazine, Angie. You look so good. I always knew you had it in you." Angela held the phone and listened to Bianca's voice, warm, familiar, enthusiastic, and something shifted in her chest. Not anger, not bitterness, just clarity. The kind that comes when you have finally seen something you can never unsee. "Thank you, Bianca," she said, and nothing else. If you've been sleeping on Angela all this time, you need to subscribe to Reina Tales right now, because what comes next will leave your mouth wide open. Hit that subscribe button and the bell so you never miss a story. His name was Derek.
Derek Sunny, 31 years old, senior brand consultant, sharp dresser, the kind of man who remembered your coffee order and sent voice notes instead of texts. He had been Bianca's fiancé for 2 years, a relationship that had been performed more than lived, full of coordinated couple photos and strategic attendance at the right events. Bianca had introduced him to everyone as my person, which was the kind of language people used when they wanted to make love sound like an acquisition. Derek first came to Angela's office in September, representing a brand strategy firm that Ngozi Naturals had considered for a product launch campaign. It was a professional meeting. He presented well. Angela asked hard questions. He answered harder ones back. They signed a 3-month consulting contract. What Angela did not know then, what she would only find out weeks later, was that Derek and Bianca had been quietly falling apart since April. Bianca had a habit that took years to fully reveal itself. She was a woman who needed control the way some people need air. When she felt a relationship shifting, when she sensed the other person beginning to build something that did not need her, she did not fight for it openly. She dismantled it quietly. A comment here, a whisper there. A slow, gentle erosion of the other person's confidence until they were too uncertain to leave, but too empty to stay. She had done it to Angela for 26 years without Angela fully naming it. She had done it to Derek in 2. She told my mother I had a gambling problem, Derek said one evening, when he and Angela had stayed late reviewing campaign concepts and the conversation had drifted somewhere more honest. I found out from my sister. She had been telling people in our circle things, small things, half-true things for months. By the time I noticed, I was already a different version of myself in everyone's eyes. Angela was very still. She would build you up in private, Derek continued, eyes somewhere else, and undo you in public, so smoothly you never caught the moment it happened. Angela set down her pen. She knew this story. She had lived this story. She had just never heard it told back to her in another person's voice with such clean precision. I ended it in August, he said. I didn't make a scene. I just stopped. Angela nodded slowly. She understood stopping. She had done her own version of it, not with one dramatic moment, but with a series of quiet decisions. The text she did not send, the secret she kept to herself in the elevator, the magazine copy she did not deliver to Bianca's door. She and Derek did not become a love story that night. That is not what this moment was. This moment was 2 people recognizing something true in each other, a shared grammar, a particular kind of wound healing into something stronger and choosing to sit with it a while longer before naming it. What happened in the weeks after was slower than a romance and more important. He brought rigor to her business instincts. She brought emotional intelligence to his strategic thinking. Together, they relaunched Mama's Recipe with a campaign that became one of the most talked about skincare moments in Nigerian social media that year. Billboards went up in Lagos, in Abuja, in Port Harcourt. Angela's face, her actual face, full and dark and undimmed, looked down from those billboards at people walking through traffic. Bianca drove past one in Lekki on a Wednesday afternoon. She was alone in her car. She slowed down without meaning to. She stared at Angela's face for a long time. Then she dialed Angela's number. Angela let it ring.
The night of the Ngozi Naturals Anniversary Gala was the kind of night that rewrites the way you remember your past. The event was held at a rooftop venue in Victoria Island. Clean white lights, long tables draped in ivory, the smell of good food and expensive perfume moving through warm Lagos air. It was Ngozi Natural's 35th anniversary, and Angela had insisted it also serve as a celebration of the relaunch, the new line, the new direction. Something Mama Ngozi would have been proud of, something real. The guest list was Angela's, built by her choices, shaped by her relationships. Stockists, brand partners, journalists, community leaders, the chemist from Benin who had transformed their formulations, Mrs. Bello in a blue asoake that made her look 20 years younger. Bianca was not on the list. She came anyway. Angela saw her from across the room near the beginning of the evening. Bianca was dressed beautifully. She was always dressed beautifully. That had never been the issue. Standing near the entrance with the specific expression of a person who had arrived somewhere uninvited and was performing the confidence that justified it. Their eyes met. Neither of them moved immediately. Then, Bianca walked toward her with a wide, warm, genuine-seeming smile, the kind of smile that had disarmed her for 26 years. "Angie, this is stunning. Look at what you've done." She spread her arms, gesturing at the room. "I always said you had something special in you. I always told people, that Angela, she is different." Angela took a breath, a real one from deep in her chest. "You told people I was still finding myself," she said, simply, without heat. "At every gathering, every church event, anytime someone asked about me, you said it in front of me, Bianca. You said it like you were being kind." Bianca's smile slowed but did not fall. "Angela, you are being... And the boys, my first boyfriend in year 2, you told him I had said things about him that I never said. I only understood what happened years later when he mentioned it at a reunion. That was so long ago. And Derek." The name landed like a dropped glass. Bianca went very still. "He told me what you did, to his name, to his confidence, to the way the people around him saw him. I didn't have to tell me. I already knew the method. I have felt that method my whole life." Around them, the gala continued. Music, laughter, clinking glasses. Nobody was watching this particular corner of the rooftop. It was just 2 women and 26 years of unspoken truth. Bianca's expression shifted slowly, the smile dropping, something real showing beneath it, something that looked almost like shame, or perhaps only shock at being seen clearly for the first time. "I was afraid of you," Bianca said finally, and her voice was different now, smaller, stripped of performance. "I know that's not what you expected me to say, but it's true. You were always so... You had something I couldn't name, and I didn't know what to do with it. So I managed me," Angela said. "You managed me." Bianca looked away. "I'm sorry, Angela." Angela looked at her. This woman she had loved since they were children in matching Ankara dresses, and felt something loosen in her chest. Not the joy of victory, not the sweetness of revenge, something quieter, the kind of release that only comes when a truth that has lived in your body for decades finally finds its way out through your mouth. "I know you are," Angela said, "but sorry is the beginning of something, not the end. I can't pretend the last 26 years didn't happen. I won't." She touched Bianca once, briefly on the arm. Then she turned and walked back toward her guests, her real guests, the people who had come to celebrate something built on honesty and hard mornings and one grandmother's unshakable faith in a quiet, watchful girl. Derek found her near the bar 5 minutes later. He said nothing. He handed her a glass of juice and stood beside her. That was enough. There is a particular freedom that comes when you stop waiting to be seen by the people who were never going to see you anyway. Angela discovered this freedom slowly, the way you discover most things that change you. Not all at once, but in layers, each one revealing a different version of what was always already true. The year after the gala was the fullest year of Angela's life. Ngozi Naturals expanded. A regional distribution deal with a South African retail chain brought the brand into 7 new markets. The Mama's Recipe line won a Beauty Innovation Award at a Lagos Industry Summit, and Angela stood at the podium in a room of 500 people and delivered a speech without notes, without apology, without once shrinking herself to fit the space. She talked about her grandmother, about the pot of cream in the kitchen in 1989, about what it means to build something from nothing but belief and early mornings. She talked about the years of sitting at the edges of rooms and learning to see everything from there, and how that education, painful as it was, had given her a kind of precision other people had to spend years trying to acquire. When she finished, the room was quiet for exactly 2 seconds. Then it was loud. Her mother was in the 3rd row. She stood before anyone else did. The magazine covers multiplied. Television interviews followed. A documentary crew from a streaming platform contacted Mrs. Bello asking about a possible feature on the Ngozi Naturals story. Angela sat with them for 2 full days and told the truth, all of it, including the parts that were uncomfortable, including the years she spent not believing in herself, including the grandmother who had seen something in her that she could not yet see in herself. The documentary aired on a Thursday. By Friday, Angela's phone had stopped being manageable. Bianca watched it. She watched it alone in her flat in Lekki on a Friday night with the light low and a glass of wine going warm on the table. She watched Angela speak with that quiet certainty, watched the archive footage of Mama Ngozi, watched Derek briefly appear on screen as a creative collaborator, and she understood with complete clarity the full weight of the choices she had made over 26 years. She did not call Angela that night. She did not text. She sat with what she had watched and she let it be uncomfortable. Some lessons can only be received in silence. Angela and Derek took things at their own pace. No performances, no announcements. Just 2 people who had chosen honesty over strategy and found it to look from the outside like a kind of joy. He moved into a role as head of brand partnerships at Ngozi Naturals 6 months later. His first major project was a campaign that featured everyday African women, real ones, full ones, dark ones, quiet ones, wearing nothing but Mama Recipe skincare and the specific confidence of women who have stopped asking for permission to be seen. The billboards went up across Lagos. Angela's aunt, the one who had told her at 20 that she should be grateful anyone noticed her at all, called to say that she had seen the billboard near her estate and that Angela looked very professional. Angela thanked her warmly, genuinely, without bitterness, because that aunt, in her limited way, was doing the best she could with what she had. And Angela had learnt, was still learning, that carrying the weight of other people's smallness was a luxury she could no longer afford. Uncle Emeka's son, the cousin who walked out of the factory with 3 staff members and a client list, reached out through a mutual contact, asking if there were any roles available at Ngozi Naturals. Angela read the message, thought about it for 1 full day. Then she replied, "Send your CV to HR." Not because she owed him anything, because she had become the kind of leader who did not let old grievances make small her capacity for generosity. Because Mama Ngozi had taught her that the size of your table is a reflection of the size of your heart. Because Angela at last had enough room. She still drove past that pharmacy in Ikeja sometimes, still saw her face on the shelf sometimes, still felt something move in her chest each time. Not pride exactly, though there was pride. Something older, something that felt like recognition, like arrival, like the quiet click of a door finally opening to a room you had always deserved to stand in. She was the girl nobody saw, the woman she became nobody could look away from. And the most powerful thing, she had not become this woman to prove anything to anyone. She had not transformed herself for revenge. She had not built Ngozi Naturals into a name people respected in order to stand in Bianca's shadow and flip the lights. She had done it because Mama Ngozi believed, long before Angela believed it herself, that her quietest granddaughter, the watchful one, the one who sat in kitchens learning instead of running outside to be seen, was exactly the right person to carry something precious forward. She had done it because it was hers, because it was true, because you cannot outrun the person you are always meant to become. The girl who sat at the edges of every room had built her own room, her own table, her own light. And it was bright enough for everyone. And that's the story. If this story moved you, if you felt Angela's journey somewhere deep in your chest, then this channel is your home. Subscribe to Raina Tales right now and ring that notification bell, because every week we bring you stories like this.